You have 700 credit scores, and you just refinanced your home. He said, well, I'm going to leave my home out of the bankruptcy, but my credit card bills are just too high. He had almost $40,000 worth of credit card bills. And he was in his home. He wanted them completely gone, and he wiped them out. His credit is still in the 700s because he left his mortgage on and he made his payments on time, and he completely wiped his credit card debt out. His credit card debt had gotten too much for him. He had been making the payments on time, but he and his wife was living off of credit. And so after his discharge, this is chapter 7. Now, the function of a discharge is the bankruptcy is to give the debtor a fresh start so that he or she can move on without being forever under the burden of scrupulous debts. Okay? That's the function of a discharge. The effect of a dismissal. A bankruptcy dismissal is a terrible thing because you're saying that you have violated the terms of your bankruptcy. It is absolutely terrible to go through a dismissal. If a bankruptcy case is dismissed, the automatic stay, which is basically saying that they cannot come after your goods or they can't come after your home, is lifted. And they come with all the horses, they come with the cavalry, and they try every collection method that can be when a dismissal is done. Now, after a discharge, creditors may not collect any debts anymore. After that, they cannot collect any debts anymore. Discharge will most likely occur more quickly under a Chapter 7 case than under a Chapter 13 case. That's because in Chapter 7, assets are liquidated to partially repay creditors. Under Chapter 13, assets are not liquidated, but instead debts are partially repaid with income over the lifetime of the bankruptcy. And most people say, well, which is better for me, Chapter 7 or Chapter 13? Which type of bankruptcy is it, Chapter 7 or Chapter 13? Well, if you come to my Facebook page, there is a cool link that will give you a test to figure out which one is better for you. It's called a means test, a Chapter 7 means test and a Chapter 13 means test to figure out which one is better for you when filing your bankruptcy. It's very important to know this. Now, after you filed your bankruptcy, whether you left something out or not, or you brought something on, you want to know, what am I to do? What do I do? How do I rebuild my credit? How am I able to bounce back after your credit? What you have to do is create a budget of your wants versus your needs, the things you want versus the things that you need, and be honest with yourself. I know that it's difficult, but you have to be honest with yourself. I was speaking with a young lady today, and she called me, and she was making a huge stink, a huge fuss about her getting into her loan. She had gotten to the closing table, and she was ready to get to the closing table, and she had a document that stated that she needed to pay $6,000 in back payments because she said, I made my payments on time every month, but I'm going to go ahead and pay the $6,000 because I want my house. Now, she was in denial. When you look at her statements, she hadn't been making her payments on time. But it felt more comfortable for her. It was easy for her to live the lie instead of become honest and real with herself. I could not begin to help her till I got her to the point to admitting that she did not make those payments. It took almost 2 hours for her to realize that she had to become real with herself. And now what we're able to do is help her to find a better home, move into a home that she likes, that's bigger and better than the one she was trying to close on, but she was stuck and paralyzed because she was deceiving herself. It's important that you become very honest and real with yourself because it doesn't matter what anybody else says about you. You know the truth, God knows the truth, and 9 times out of 10, your spouse knows the truth. And unfortunately, your spouse, they're not being real with themselves. They don't want to admit the fact that they're married to a woman who's contentious. They don't want to face the fact that they're married to a man who is pathetic. I understand that these are tough things to say about yourself, but if you remain in that same negative behavior, you will be that way. But you have the ability to change right now. If you are a mean, contentious woman and know your husband doesn't want to be around you and you push your husband into the arms of another woman, take responsibility for that and change that. If you are a man and you have pushed your wife into the hands of another man because you're lazy and you're sorry and you're not taking control of your destiny, and she's with somebody who feels like they can, take responsibility for that. Change your behavior. Change it immediately. Take responsibility for your actions. There are consequences for your actions. You're able to become better. You don't have to remain the same. After you've created a budget, then what do? A lot of times people don't want to lend to you when you file bankruptcy, because what you're saying to the eyes of the underwriters, what you're saying to the eyes of the lenders is that I am bankrupt. I cannot afford to take care of my finances. So it's important that you have a strong income. When you have a strong income, then you are able to generate credit. What do you mean by that, Mr. Cole? When you file bankruptcy, after you file bankruptcy, you're going to need to give yourself 2 years. Why 2 years? Because after 2 years of a discharge for a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, you're able to rebuild. You're able to buy a house. Now, I do not agree with getting car loans in building your credit. I did another episode which was called the Inside the Credit Repair, when people were trying to purchase a home. In cases where people are trying to purchase a home, if they have not filed bankruptcy, the last thing you want to do is get a car. Why is that? Because a car has such a high debt-to-income ratio. This is a $500 to $600 debt that you're adding to your to your financial profile, and you're about to purchase a home. Now, if you have filed bankruptcy, this is complete opposite. If you have filed bankruptcy, you're not going to be able to get into a home for 2 years anyway. So your job is to rebuild your life, rebuild your credit. There are several different car organizations, car companies. The economy is at such a place right now that you're able to go and get a car, a reliable car. Now, this is what I suggest you do. Go and get a car after you file bankruptcy. Make sure that they report to the credit bureau. If they are a buy here, pay here place, do not do business with them, because your goal is not to get a nice car. Your goal is to repay your credit. And you need a large item ticket to show that I am not a ne'er-do-well. I am not someone who do not know how to manage my debt. I am able to afford this $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 debt and make your payments on time. Now, when you get this car, you're going to have a high interest rate. It is the cost of filing bankruptcy. You cannot complain about having a high interest rate after you file bankruptcy. You're going to have to pay your dues. You're going to have a high interest rate. You're going to make sure you budget for it, and you're going to be better for it because you're able to refinance that car loan. So when you are rebuilding your credit, these are the 4 things you have to do in order. Get 2 types of secured credit cards. A secured credit card is when you go into the bank. Say if you deal with Bank of America. No, let's not say that Bank of America, because they're not the best with secured credit cards. Let's say you deal with Wells Fargo, or you deal with a credit union specifically. What will happen is that a credit union will give you what's called a secured credit card. A secured credit card is a credit card or a line of credit that is secured against real property. What's real property? Cash is real property. If you have a paid-for car, that's real property. You're able to get a loan based on secured capital. And they're going to give it to you because if you do not pay, guess what? They have the money already. So this is how you're able to, this is why you need to have funds available, because you file bankruptcy, so you don't have to pay any debts to anybody in most cases. So save up your money, $500, and go out and get 4 lines of credit, two secured credit cards. It is very imperative that you're able to get that and make those payments on time. Not only do you make the payments on time, no matter what, under any circumstances, you are in the process of rebuilding your credit. So do not spend more than 25% of the available balance. What does that mean? If you have a $1,000 credit limit, that means that you are not able to have a balance more than $250. Do not spend any more than $250 in a 30-day period. So that means that, say if you have a credit card with a $1,000 credit limit, you use $500 on that card. At the end of the 30 days, you need to be writing a check for at least $250 to get your balance back to that 25%. I suggest that you keep a balance. Why do you keep a balance? Because if you keep a balance, you're going to show you have a payment history because you have a minimum payment. If you have a credit line, a line of credit or credit card with a $1,000 limit and you don't have any balance on it, then it's worthless to you because you're not making payments. You don't have a minimum balance. You don't have a minimum payment. So what happens is that create a balance. Do not go above 25% at the max. I suggest that you use it for things like gas and groceries, things that you know you can pay off, and you're going to have a minimum balance or a minimum payment of around $8. Pay triple that amount. Make sure that you're under 25%. If you go above the 25%, let's use the same scenario. You use $500. Well, your minimum payment is $8. So if you write that check for $250, guess what? You have paid the minimum payment, plus you've paid a lot more, and you've kept your balance under 25%. This is how you rebuild your credit. You need 2 secured credit cards. Count them, 2 secured credit cards. You don't have to have $1,000. It can be